Hello there! In the multitude of small computer animation studios, a good amount come and go without making much of an impact, or even shutting down before making a single film at all. However, of the non-major CG studios that have appeared, DNA is probably the most well-known, even if the name doesn't ring a bell. And it all started with a boy genius. John A. Davis had the idea of experimenting with off-the-shelf CG animation software to bring to life the adventures of Johnny Quasar. He created a small 40-second short that ultimately won awards at SIGGRAPH, which was soon expanded into a full short with the character. This caught the attention of the folks at Nickelodeon, who commissioned a pilot short titled Runaway Rocket Boy. Nickelodeon was so impressed with it, they decided to not only greenlight a television series, but a feature film as well. Some of the pilot was showcased in the first teaser trailer for Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius. I remember seeing this trailer before showing of The Emperor's New Groove way back when, and was immediately captivated by this strange style of computer animation. Runaway Rocket Boy was pretty much a shorter version of the story, with many of the gags and lines later repeated for the main feature. Needless to say, I look forward to when Jimmy Neutron would hit the big screen. Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius is a pretty solid little adventure, and even though the animation does not even match what the folks at Pixar or DreamWorks were doing at the time, there is a certain charm to its off-the-shelf style. The character designs are unique, and John Davis packs the film with the right punch and energy, especially when the children find out their parents have gone. There's even a good amount of character development, and the humor definitely works more often than not. It's also nice to see a feature film from a major studio where most of the principal actors are professional voice actors rather than simply celebrities. The idea of the aliens being egg-like creatures is very creative, but it's nice to see them present aliens very different from the norm. I also think DNA was probably one of the first CG studios who figured out how to design humans without entering the uncanny valley territory. If I have a slight problem with the film, it does suffer from something that tended to happen quite often with films in the early 2000s, where rather than getting the composer to write an appropriate score, they simply slap the latest pop hit on. And Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius does this quite often, even though what little we hear of John Debney's score is very good. Otherwise, this is a well-done feature, and while its Oscar nomination for Best Animated Feature seems to stand out, I don't mind that the animation branch went for it. Though, unfortunately, I feel the television series didn't deliver quite the same zing and charm as the feature. Something that crossed my mind recently is that one studio made a feature film lately which was much more expensive, utilized more state-of-the-art technology, and had a similar plotline about aliens stealing parents for their own diabolical plan. Yet it lacked any of the humor, charm, character development, or childlike wonder of space exploration. What was it called? Pluto Needs Uncles? Something like that. Anyway, while Jimmy Neutron was being developed, DNA Productions got a deal to make a computer-generated Christmas special for television. Entitled Santa vs. the Snowman, it takes an interesting look at the North Pole world that has been replicated many times over the years. In this case, it's turned to almost like a military compound as the elves wage war against a snowman who wants to take over the holiday. The animation is incredibly primitive, and I'm not sure why the elves look like rhinoceroses, but enough elements work that overcome the basic cheap look of it. It's nothing special by any means, but it wouldn't be a waste of time to watch it. This special actually ran in IMAX 3D for a couple of years, which is why I'm discussing it here. But I do have a question for those who saw in that format. Did they simply show the special and that was it? The price of an IMAX 3D ticket seems rather steep for a 30-minute short, so I'm wondering if they tacked anything else to it. Following those two projects, DNA was commissioned by Tom Hanks to make an animated adaptation of the book The Ant Bully. What starts off as a pretty basic and cliched story becomes quite enjoyable in the end, though the main reason the Ant Bully manages to work is how it creates the ant world. John A. Davis seems to have a really good understanding of the vastness of an ant's point of view, and he cleverly brings it to life. The production design is especially awe-inspiring, with the anthill becoming very carefully and thoughtfully done. Zach Tyler helps make Lucas a likable protagonist, and his growth through the film is well developed, though I couldn't help but think that he could have fixed his problem simply by bending the elements. Less good is Nicolas Cage, who frankly does not have the sound for voice acting, as he always sounds like he's reading from the page before grabbing his paycheck out of the door. Then we have Rob Paulsen, who gets the funniest bits, but is criminally underused. The Ant Bully also deserves credit for taking crude jokes that could have been groan-inducing, but actually are quite hilarious. Admittedly, the villain is on the one-dimensional side, and the story could have used more tweaking, especially early on. However, Davis brings his strong sense of humor and love for adventure to the Ant Bully, and as a whole, it's a well-done little animated picture. Sadly, the Ant Bully was a box office flop, and D&A Productions closed its doors. However, their first two theatrical projects certainly show that with limited budget, you can still create a creative story even with the most primitive of animation. And the Ant Bully proves that even if you don't have the big names of Pixar or Disney, something good can pop up where you least expect it. See you next time.